I was expecting somebody taller to become before me. I'm as nervous now as I was the first day that Scott White put me on the air, basically. So
you should see how nervous I was.
Oh my gosh! You know, Scott, first of all, thank you for inviting me, and as I arrived, I was lamenting not being at every one of these, you know, and it's. I have a couple of little stories I'd like to tell that are sort of funny, but I also want to tell you how important it is for me to be here for a number of reasons. Because you know, when Scott emailed me when it became clear that I was actually invited, I was telling this story, and I told this, you know. I've told him this story like by text and by email, but I've never told him this story, you know, in person. Is that everything that has happened to me, not only everything that's happened to me professionally, but how I met my wife, why I have my kids, why 35 people, you know, a week get a paycheck and have been for 15 years because of our company, was started by you, Scott. I mean, it's, I don't know if you guys all know this story, but the story that I had in my head for so many years was that I auditioned to be a newscaster, a 2020 newscaster, and I got the job because I was diligent, and I was persistent, and I kept after it and everything. And then I finally found out about 5 years ago that I got the job because Pat Patterson needed a center for the friggin' basketball team.
That's true.
And it is a true story, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, this is you've taken my whole childhood away from me now. This is it.
And you know why you needed one? Because the center left and went to Charlotte.
Oh, the center left and went to Charlotte. Yeah.
That's been a burden on your life.
But what happened? And by the way, Rick Dees, and I was telling him and Julia this at the table. You know, Rick was sort of like Moses because I never met Rick back then. I just knew that Rick Dees had been in town, and that he came in with his staff, and it was like, I will be on the air, and then I will move on. And but I replaced Rick. He was your roommate.
Yeah.
Right. And so Rick got out of town, so I ended up being Bill Leslie's roommate.
Yeah, we were.
And what happened during that period of time was that first Scott just spent so much time teaching me how to be a broadcaster, and I was terrible. I mean, ask Thorne James. It was like, it's 20 minutes after 3. This is John Tesh, WKIX 2020 News. And Scott was all like, don't say 2020, you're freaking people out. But Bill, you know, and Tuesday you should know this, that one of the reasons Bill is such a great broadcaster is that this guy rehearsed every single day. I mean, do you remember doing this where he would take the paper, right, and he would read, and to this day I still do this if I'm going to ad-lib a story. He would read a news story, and then he would put this story down, and then he would ad-lib in the mirror for like 5 minutes. And that's how you taught yourself how to bathe. I did it because I watched I watched you do it. Yeah. So I mean, all the jocks and were so kind to me. Thorne James did drive me out of my mind. I mean, the pranks. I mean, he seems like such a like a really cool guy now, you know, and sort of together. But he was a madman, and he would just torture me. There was this, because I was on the weekends only, right? So I'd be there, and I'd be ripping the the news from the AP wire, and I'd get the cards from UPI Audio, and then I would get ready, and you'd hear the news sound like a bam 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 ba da da da. It says John Tesh, WKIX 20, and I would read the news. And so he would open his mic. He says he doesn't remember this, but he would open his mic, right, from the other studio, and as I'm talking, he's going like this. And I'm thinking that Satan has inhabited my body somehow. And am I making that noise? Is it coming out of my ass? I don't. What is going on? And finally realized it was him just torturing him. But I do want you to know that that the way I got the job, as I remember it, was I kept doing these demos. I actually got suspended. I was telling Julia this. I got suspended from NC State because I signed I don't even know if you know this, guy. I signed a drop ad card because I wanted to get out of statistics and I wanted to be a full-time broadcaster because I got bit by the bug. And so my roommate, who's in danger of being killed any moment by me, says to me, just sign your professor's name on the drop ad card. It's easy. That's how I dropped my courses, and it was statistics, and I needed that one course to be dropped. So I said, I'm not doing that. He goes, no, do it. I'll do it for you. So he signs the name, and after my junior year, you remember this, Bill? It was like the end of my life. After my junior year, all of a sudden my report card comes back, and it has a letter in it that I broke the honor code and I was being suspended from school and I wouldn't finish my senior year. So my parents, who are deep South Baptist, threw me out of the house. So university threw me out, NC State. My parents threw me out, put me in a Volkswagen with a tent, and true story. And I slept at like Tanglewood or something, whatever it was out there, and pumped gas at College Esso, and worked for CC Mangum. Anybody remember CC Mangum? Okay, so I was the backhoe guy. I was that guy, and I listened to KIX every day on my little transistor radio, and I said, this is the only way I'm going to get out of here. I have to get that job. So I went to WKNC Radio, and WKNC was the campus radio station at NC State, and it may still be. And I talked my way in there and said, hey, can I just use your facilities? And so what I did was I created, I don't know if you remember this, I created a fake broadcast, true story, where I went in there with the reel-to-reel tapes and I said, this is John Tesh, WKIX, and I did I didn't have any help, so I did all the voices myself. So I said, this is WKIX 2020 News, John Tesh with you, and today in the Middle East, Henry Kissinger had a report about how well détente is going. Correspondent Maurice Gindi in Cairo has a report.
This is Maurice Gindi in Cairo. Today, Henry Kissinger had this to say about détente.
I think that there's a problem. I think détente couldn't possibly do something that we've worked together with.
This has been Maurice Gindi in Cairo.
Thank you, Maurice. John Tesh, WKIX 2020 News. Next news at 20 minutes to 6, right? And I took that reel-to-reel and gave it to these guys, and then all of a sudden my phone rings in my wherever I was, and there's a whole bunch of people laughing, and it's on a conference call, and they said, I think it was you and a couple other people, it may have been Maruka, and they said, listen, if you want the job this badly, you can turn the transmitter on Sundays and play the religious tapes. So that was my first gig. So then what I did, because now I'm a criminal, right? So I figured what could be worse? So what I would do is I played razor blade roulette with the religious tapes, and it's amazing that I actually ended up being able to being let into a church at this point after all this has happened. But I'd close my eyes and I would take the razor blade and I would just hit one of the tapes, right? And I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning, doing this thing. So it would play and I'd sit there, and I'd wait. And about some days it was like, some Sundays it was like, a half hour, sometimes it was 2 hours, and all of a sudden the guy would be talking, and then Moses said to, and then, and I'd open up the mic and go, oh, there seems to be a technical difficulty, John Tesh, let's just play some music, And nobody at the station ever knew this because
nobody listened.
Well, yeah, because it was 6 o'clock in the morning, So I'm lucky to be here because I did. But I wanted to thank you guys for just, really just shaping. There's so many of you here, Kenny, and all the stuff that you've done for me, and everybody that's all the jocks I describe it to my family as WKRP. It really was that, for me. And the other thing you should know is that this is one of the reasons I really wanted to come is that almost exactly a year ago in May, there were like maybe 2 or 3 of you who know this, is I got a terrible, basically terminal cancer diagnosis. And one thing led to another, and we found a genius at Johns Hopkins who did surgery on me and cured me after the guys at UCLA said you need to get your affairs in order. And I got another chance at life. And so, for so many reasons, it's important for me to be here. God bless you guys.
Thank you, John.